look at some of the things that have happened recently. A year ago, we had Siloscape, and Alex actually knows more about this.
Yeah, so Siloscape was actually one of the first reported Windows container targeted malwares. So what it did was it sneaks in a backdoor via Kubernetes. So if you have Windows containers running in a Kubernetes cluster, so that it's highly available and scalable, like we talked about in the beginning, you can pop up new Windows servers on a dime with an increased service cost, but you can spin those up really quickly. So you have these Windows servers running in a Kubernetes cluster. Well, what this malware did was it would target those Windows servers, and if it could get into one of those containers, it actually figured out how to break out. It broke out of the container and takes control of the entire cluster. And now not only do they run your cluster, but it was actually able to create additional malicious containers. So if you didn't have somebody watching that Kubernetes cluster really carefully, because they would be sneaky about it. They wouldn't just spin up 1,000 new containers. They would spin up a few. And those few would do all sorts of things, from crypto jacking to DDoS attacks to set up a botnet, all sorts of different things. So it was a campaign that was pretty sneaky. They could, this says they can spread from one container to another, but once you actually have control of the cluster, you can spin up your own containers too, which is even worse. You can go to the next slide. So this diagram just kind of shows at a high level how it would work. Once you hit that container in the center there, it was a PHP attack in this particular example. This particular malware strain used PHP often. They actually sim-linked the hard drive of the container to the hard drive of the node. So that node's hard drive became the container's hard drive. And suddenly they had access to the entire node, and they could run the kube control program directly from that. And I'm glossing over the details on that, but essentially that's how they broke out. And Windows, oddly enough, said that it wasn't a vulnerability because it was meant to Windows. They said that the Windows server, Microsoft said that the Windows server was not a security boundary, so they didn't count it as a vulnerability right away. And they had to be convinced that this was a really serious vulnerability because it was actually originally designed, Windows servers was originally designed to run on Hyper-V, right? As you all would know. So when they moved it over to containers, they realized there was a huge security hole in the way that they could basically take control of the whole node this way.